President Trump revealing he doesn't have any tapes of his conversations with James Comey, but is glad he forced the former FBI director's hand.
I don't have any tape, and I didn't tape. But when he found out that that there may be tapes out there, whether it's governmental tapes or anything else, and who knows, I think his story may have changed. I mean, you'll have to take a look at that, because then he has to tell what actually took place at the events. And my story didn't change. My story was always a straight story. My story was always the truth. But you'll have to determine for yourself whether or not his story changed. But I did not tape.
Professor Alan Dershowitz, a Democrat, says the president's bluff is not illegal, and now has a warning for his own party to back off or pay the price. And he joins me now. So, Dershowitz, I just want to let our audience know your Democratic credentials, because every time I'm at Martha's Vineyard, you're there at the Chillmark store in your rocking chair with Larry David and all your left-wing buddies, and you're making fun of Fox News and everything like that. So the fact that you are now telling the Democrats not to overreach on this Russia probe is a big deal, correct?
Well, I'm not sure how many people are going to show up at the Chillmark porch. I already got some calls from people saying they have arguments with me. Why am I defending Trump? And I say, I'm not defending Trump. I'm defending civil liberties. I'm defending the Constitution. I'd be doing the same thing if it were the Republicans who were yelling, lock him up to Hillary Clinton based on acts that were not criminal.
So you don't see any criminality so far to anything, obstruction of justice, collusion, nothing?
Certainly not on behalf of the president. The president had the constitutional power to fire Comey. He had the power to tell him to reveal the fact that he was not under investigation. He had the constitutional power to tell him to stop investigating Flynn. So nothing he did was outside of his constitutional authority.
So you're saying the president could fire Mueller right now, and that would be fine, although you know that the media is going to go absolutely ballistic?
It's a little more difficult to fire Mueller because there are Justice Department regulations that require that he be fired by the Deputy Attorney General, but the president could order the Deputy Attorney General to fire him and then fire him if he refused to do it and appoint the new Deputy Attorney General to fire him. That's the law. The law ought to be changed. It's a terrible, terrible law. The president should not have the authority to fire the director of the FBI. He shouldn't have the authority to stop an investigation. But he does.
But it's the Congress law, right? And no matter what, right? And we can't change the law now. It's too late. We're in the middle of the process. I want to play the audience some sound of Jay Johnson, Department of Homeland Secretary under President Obama, when he was asked about any evidence of collusion. Roll the tape.
Had you seen any evidence that Donald Trump or any member of his campaign colluded, conspired, or coordinated with the Russians or anyone else to infiltrate or impact our voter infrastructure?
Not beyond what has been out there open source.
So, Professor, if there's no collusion and there's no obstruction, then what exactly is being investigated?
Well, I think all that's being investigated legitimately is whether or not Flynn failed to put on his application form various meetings. I'm going to go a step further than your previous person who spoke.
Yeah.
Let's assume, hypothetically, there was collusion. Let's assume that Donald Trump called Vladimir Putin, this didn't happen, and said, you know, I really would love you to help me win the election by legitimate means. If you have any material from WikiLeaks that you can provide that would put my opponent in a negative light, I'd really appreciate if you did that. And in exchange for that, if I get elected president, I'm going to eliminate sanctions. That would be a terrible, terrible thing. But I can't find a criminal statute that would violate.
So, wow. So there is no criminal statute involving collusion. I just don't understand where the impeachment comes from. And, you know, it's also funny, this whole Russia investigation now has spun off into a completely different direction. Now the Judiciary Committee is probing whether Loretta Lynch, President Obama's attorney general, tried to stifle the Clinton email investigation. So the whole thing now is gone sideways. But I'm glad, as a proud and avowed Democrat and preeminent legal scholar, you have now put this issue to rest in Waters' world. And I will see you Professor Dershowitz, hopefully at Martha's Vineyard this summer. And thank you very much for joining us.
I may be alone on the porch when you come, but I look forward to seeing you.
Professor Dershowitz, thank you. A New Jersey professor goes crazy on Tucker Carlson tonight, then gets fired from her teaching job. We'll show you what she said and other real news of the week later on in the show. But first, Watters World visits President Trump's alma mater for their take on his proposed tax plan. If you have more money, you can buy more feather boas.
I could buy all the colors of the rainbow.